of a two-part series exploring the involvement of foundational Black Americans in the Revolution. After this, it's back to business, because there's a lot going on. These are all facts from a Pulitzer Prize-winning biography of George Washington. Let's keep it a buck. George Washington couldn't retain white soldiers to save his life. It was a problem that plagued him throughout the entire war. The majority of white soldiers were greedy, lazy cowards, and they would only enlist for a year. If they weren't given that option, they wouldn't join. Basically, they'd take the pay for training, and then they'd leave. By 1776, the bulk of the army was gone. Only 3,500 agreed to stay. They actually considered dispersing everybody, because 3,500 soldiers meant the war was over. In a confidential letter to a guy named Joseph Reed, Washington was in total despair. He described the white soldiers as mercenaries, and he said this: "Could I have foreseen what I have and am like to experience? No consideration on earth should have induced me to accept this command." Remember, blacks were already in the army, but it was only a few months into the war before they had no choice but to let thousands and thousands more enlist. And if you're still on the fence as to whether or not there was a black person on the boat that crossed the Delaware, there was. His name was Billy Lee. Billy Lee was Washington's top slave. He was more like an assistant. Basically, he was Washington's best black friend. They were with each other every single day for most of both of their adult lives. Many say he even advised Washington in private. He was with Washington till the moment Washington died. In Washington's will, he freed Billy Lee and gave him a house. Let's skip to the end. Here's how we won the war. Benjamin Franklin got the French involved. They agreed to send 3,500 troops and 29 Navy ships. This man, James Armistead, is highly recognized as America's first double agent. He risked his life gathering intelligence from the British High Command. In 1781, it paid off when he reported to the French that the British were setting up on a narrow peninsula at Yorktown. The French boxed them in. They were trapped. This is him at Yorktown with Lafayette, the guy who he gave the information to. He's pointing down the hill where the British are trapped. The final battle came down to having to defeat the last British defenses, Redoubts 9 and Redoubt 10. A redoubt is a large fortification on a hill with logs sharpened like pencils surrounded by a deep ditch of water. The soldiers had to cross the water while being shot at. Then they had to cut an opening into the logs so they could allow the soldiers in to attack. Washington assigned Redoubt 9 to the French. He assigned Redoubt 10 to 400 men, most of which were black, led by Alexander Hamilton. Family, never let anyone tell you our military service in America didn't start until the Civil War. It started from day one. We were the catalysts. We were the ones who made the war serious. We were the tens of thousands of troops that the war would have simply ended without. We personally assisted and advised the commander-in-chief, provided the information that led to the siege of Yorktown,